Hello, Otters here, and this is part 2 of A-Level History, how to construct an essay. Paragraph structures. And here are the basics. You should start each paragraph with a clear point that directly answers the question. You should also sum up your paragraph, sum up the point that you're making in the paragraph. And in the middle, you should have lots of knowledge from the course. Could include things like historians' comments, could include specific acts or things that happened during that period, giving perhaps dates if we're lucky, and some analysis as to what that meant. And now I'm going to show you some examples. So this paragraph is part of an answer to a question about how far Edward was to blame for the disputed succession at the end of his reign. Now you should start every paragraph with a clear point, and here we've got one. Edward's capriciousness also contributed to the disputed succession in 1066, because if he had chosen an heir earlier in his reign instead of on his deathbed, then the Witan would not have been able to deny that candidate's claim. And then it goes on. So you've got to have a bit of knowledge, a bit of analysis. And in the middle, we've got, up to this point, a bit of knowledge and a bit of analysis. And down the bottom, it refers back to the question and just re-emphasises the point at the start. Therefore, although Edward may only have been capricious to keep his reign peaceful, his inability to choose a definite heir was a reason for the disputed succession crisis. Now that definitely links to the question. This person is blaming Edward in part for the succession crisis due to his inability to make up his mind. It starts with a point which says how Edward is somewhere to blame for the succession crisis, and in the middle it's got some examples of why this person happens to think this. Now if anything, this section could be a little bit bigger, it could have elaborated a bit more, but it's a good example of how you kind of sandwich a paragraph. You start with your point, you end by summing up your point. I'll show you another example. Perhaps before you listen to the rest of this bit, you could pause and see if you can actually see where this paragraph makes a clear point, how it develops it, and how it sums up that point. So this is a question all about how much Edward the Confessor was to blame for the disputed succession crisis. And you can see here, at the start of this paragraph, this person has decided that to an extent Edward the Confessor was to blame, because it's rumoured that he promised 2 of the 4 candidates the throne. I'm going to highlight some areas of knowledge here, because this is a brilliant example. Edward let Harold Godwinson act as subregulus, which gave him duties of a king. Good, that's knowledge. Very good knowledge. And this implies that Edward was going to select Harold Godwinson as heir to the throne, as he had some experience of acting as king, as well as him being the only candidate to have ever ruled anything in England before. And of course, that kind of mixes in there, doesn't it? There's a little bit more knowledge. It was rumoured that Edward had made William heir to the throne on several occasions. It would have been better here if they'd have said which occasions. But they do have some great knowledge here, because to emphasise this rumour, Edward had given William 2 hostages. Again, could have been a bit better there if it had mentioned Wulfnoth and Hakon, but I'm splitting feathers here, splitting straws, I don't know. I'm nitpicking. And it also has then a bit of analysis down here, which I've put the wrong colour, which implied that he wanted the Godwin family to back William's claim. So, in the middle of the paragraph, here is a lot of analysis, a lot of knowledge, which all links to this idea that Edward the Confessor might be to blame because he'd been promising candidates the throne. And here at the end, this paragraph sums up the point, because it says, these 2 points show that Edward was to blame, as it was said that he promised Harold and William the throne, and of course they both couldn't have been heir, proving Edward to have played some part in the succession crisis. So again, it repeats kind of the point made at the start, but it sums it up. It's a fantastic example of how you could construct or should construct a paragraph.